Go for it.
Good evening and welcome to Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Luv Bay family, we're rising out of the ashes together. Tonight, our topic is the honeymoon cycle. And we have with us our guest co-host Jennifer Peterkin. And our guest for this evening is Felicia Holmes, Biblical Christian Counselor. Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our guest or our co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. Also, if you have resources that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, your local organizations, or your faith community, you can email us also at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. With that, Jen, would you greet our listeners on tonight?
Yes, good evening, Luv Bay. I'm so happy to be here again with you. It's been a while, but I was here last week, so excited to be here again to talk with Felicia and Tia about the honeymoon cycle. It's such an important topic. As Tia said, my name is Jen Peterkin. I am a domestic violence survivor and advocate. I became an advocate after my own marriage ended. And now I am working on a project long-term called The Human Experience, which is about telling stories and how our stories and our experiences shape who we are as people and how we see the world and how we see other people through that lens. So I'm actually going to be launching a podcast called The Human Experience in January. And if you'd like to follow along with that, you can follow me on Instagram at GetTheHX.
Thank you. Felicia, would you please greet our listeners on this evening?
Yes, thank you for having me again. It's a pleasure as always. I'm Felicia Holmes, and I'm also a survivor. I'm a thriver, and I also am an advocate for domestic violence, but as well as just recently obtaining my biblical counseling degree to correlate the principles of the biblical aspect within our daily lives. So thank you for having me again, Minister Tia. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Listeners, as usual, we want to start with sharing some resources. So in Australia, we have the National Family Violence Counseling Service. Their website is www.1800respect.org.au. Their phone number is 1-800-737-732. In the UK, we have the National Domestic Abuse Helpline. Their website is www.nationaldahelpline.org.uk. Their phone number is 0808-20-00247, or you can visit Women's Aid. Their website is www.womensaid.org.uk. And then we have Befrienders Volunteer Action to Prevent Suicide. To find a helpline by country, you can visit their website, www.befrienders.org. And before we move into our topic tonight, I want to make mention of us moving into the holiday season. As we move into the holiday season, more issues arise surrounding suicide, surrounding domestic violence, surrounding trauma, because holidays aren't happy and loving and wonderful for everyone. Sometimes the holidays can be the most dangerous, the most sad. It can be just the most traumatic time of the year for individuals. So listeners, I just want to just throw that out there and just ask that we would all be mindful of what's going on around us. I'm sure that there are things that we just don't see and some things we don't know, but if we just have the heart to be mindful and be compassionate, some things may catch our attention and we'll be able to be helpful in some kind of way. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I was in a store today and I saw the decorations, Christmas trees and the wreaths and everything. And, you know, to see a tree and all the bells and stuff, for everyone, it doesn't strike a beautiful melody. So just wanted to throw that out there. So as we move into our topic on tonight, the honeymoon cycle, there was a part of an article that I wanted to share. This article, it's called The Domestic Violence Cycle. It was written by Eric Anderson. This is from October 26, 2018. And I believe that it's still relevant. And Eric Anderson is from Banyan Therapy, Banyan. This is in Studio City, California. And their phone number is 818-435-7847. And so a portion of the article, as it reads, as with many repeating patterns, domestic violence has a cyclical nature that follows 3 stages. Knowing these stages is helpful to identify these abusive patterns in a relationship. There are 3 stages that we will look at: tension building, explosion, and the honeymoon. The tension building stage. In this phase of the domestic violence cycle, there is an ongoing tension that is building. There's no specific time frame. It can be a matter of days or a matter of months. During this time, stress starts to build both within the couple and outside the relationship. The abuser might be increasingly irritable, taking out stress on those around him. Oftentimes, the victim of abuse might try to alleviate that tension by appeasing or placating their partner. They try to suppress the tension, hoping that if they can take away the stress, it will keep the tension from rising. This stage is marked by escalating levels of anger, criticism, and even small outbursts. Often the whole household feels they are walking on eggshells, hoping things won't erupt. However, they eventually do. The explosion stage. This phase is where the tension boils over and an instance of violence occurs. The attack can be physical, verbal, or sexual, and likely leaves everyone involved damaged and in pain. Particularly if the cycle has been going on for a while, the victim will often start to make statements vowing not to let this happen again and about the boundaries they will and should have already set. The honeymoon stage. In this phase, the tension starts to de-escalate. The abuser will apologize and vow to change, often making promises that it will be different going forward. They explain what they have learned from their mistakes and work reactively to heal the damage caused by their behavior. Apologies, gifts, and grand gestures are staples of this stage. These kind of actions may involve momentary sincerity or remorse, but are really meant to manipulate their partner into not following through on their boundaries and attempt to return things to normal. As with the tension building stage, this stage has no specific time frame and can last a matter of days or a matter of months. And again, this article was by Eric Anderson, The Domestic Violence Cycle. So I want to start just by saying the honeymoon cycle is not a fun situation to be in, not at all. And for myself personally, though I knew it was coming, though I could identify when I was in that stage, it was very difficult. I was walking on eggshells. So the honeymoon cycle, that period is not a time where you feel relaxed and comfort. It's a time where you know something is going to happen. You just don't know what, and you don't know when. And so I really want to try to give some context or understanding to the stage. And I want to emphasize that just like abuse itself, the honeymoon cycle can look different for each person as well. And so, Felicia, I want to start with you, and then Jen, if you would follow up, Like, can you, in your own words, help to clarify for our listeners, like what actually happens during this stage?
Sure. For me, in my situation, I had to go. I did not know anything that there was a honeymoon cycle called in domestic violence. My first thing was, oh, this is a period of happy time after you get married, until I went to counseling and it was broken down for me about the different stages. So for me, I always have to go back and do my thing, research and understand the process, because when you're going through it, you may not know what the name of the stages are, but you may call them or relate to them in different ways. Mm-hmm. So for me, I had to go back and I said, well, wait a minute, who created the cycle? So I did my research, and it was the Dr. Lenore Walker who created the cycles. So then I had to go back also and reference, my scriptures, because that's my basis for Felicia. And so I found 2 scriptures, but they never dealt with this type of honeymoon. I'm thinking it was to be for good things for after marriage, when it's not. So for me, for my honeymoon cycle, when I was in my domestic violence, it was more described as a calm before the storm. Mm-hmm. It was a break. It was a rest. It was like falsification and a liar, and they're only saying what they need to or what they think we want to hear. And for me also, I started noticing the replica of the honeymoon cycle. And I started keeping track, because I'm a chronological person and I'm a calendar person. So I said, wait a minute, this is happening, say, between the 15th and the 17th of every month. And would it alter at all? Sometimes. But sometimes around that time, it would happen. And I couldn't figure out why during this time. But you're very fearful because of the unknown. Yes. You're unsure of what's going to happen or what triggers will actually populate. You don't know, like you said, you're on eggshells, whether what you say, do not, or not will stimulate or start the whole cycle all over again. So like you said, you may be good. Hey, you might get flowers, you may get gifts, you may go out to dinner, but then bam, it changes immediately at any time for any person. And it's different for everybody. Sometimes people can relate also, you may can't sleep, you may can't eat, because of the fear of you don't know what's going to happen. The fear of the unknown can be very powerful when you're not sure about how they will respond, when they will respond, and what they will respond to.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think just reiterating the fact that it is so different. I mean, it's different in practice for everybody. But it's the same in that it's textbook, right? Like you can literally read an article about it, and anybody who has been in that situation can be like, yeah, I've lived that. That is absolute truth. For me personally, the honeymoon cycle was when I saw the person that I thought I had fallen in love with. The person that didn't ever really exist, but who I thought I was marrying. And so, I think there's a lot at play in these cycles, and obviously in domestic violence, it's a very layered thing. But one thing I want to point out is that nobody gets married to get divorced, right? Like nobody goes through this to have it end horribly, and to walk away with trauma. So, part of going through the honeymoon cycle, I think, is holding on to hope. You're holding on to, like, maybe there is still this person in there. Maybe he does exist. Maybe this will eventually be long term. And I think it's interesting, Felicia, that your abuser, you could almost set your watch by him. That's so fascinating. And I think also, though, you have the abusers that it could, like, your cycles could last all different times. Your honeymoon cycle could last for months. It could be, you could even have a honeymoon cycle of years. That is possible. That doesn't mean it's not the honeymoon cycle, because if you go back into the patterns of tension and anger and explosion, then you're still in that cycle. So even if your honeymoon period is long, that doesn't mean that the abuse is over and you're in the clear. And I think, unfortunately, an abuser's best weapon is their ability to manipulate you, and control you, right? And so in all of those stages, you are the one, as the victim, that is not in control of the situation. Whether you're in the tension building phase, the explosion phase, or the honeymoon phase, you are not in control, because you are waiting to know how to react to the way that he behaves. So, no matter how you feel that things are going, it's not changing. It still is a cycle. Even if it takes time to move through those cycles, they are still in control of the situation. And that's ultimately what's going to keep you in that cycle.
Right. And so, like, the cycle continues. No matter how long or short the cycle lasts, the cycle will repeat itself until that pattern is actually broken.
Exactly.
And Felicia, as you were saying, about not knowing what to call it, like, I didn't know that I was experiencing the honeymoon cycle. I didn't know until I was in it. I picked up on a pattern, but I didn't know what it was called until I actually started going through counseling and reaching out and reading and getting information, basically being educated on what I was going through. I didn't know what it was called, but I definitely knew that it was a pattern I could recognize. I could set my watch by it. I really could. And when I was in it, the specific honeymoon cycles, I couldn't think straight. And that is something that it's baffling, because I could always function. I could always do what I needed to do. I could go to work. I could get my job done. I could take care of my children. Whatever I needed to do in a home, I could do it. But I had a hard time within myself thinking straight. I couldn't think straight. And I really questioned my sanity. I did, because I was in something that made me feel horrible. I was in something where I was being hurt. I was mentally hurt. I was emotionally hurt. I was physically hurt. And then the same person is apologizing and being nice, for a specific period of time, and making promises and starting on those promises, never carrying out the full thing, but starting. And that start was enough to make me think, like, what is this? Like, what is going on? So I truly did question my sanity, like, what is happening, until I was finally able to step outside of my situation for an outsider to show me, look, this is the information right here, or to be able to pick up information, and read it for myself. So, I mean, it sounds really simple to say, the honeymoon cycle, but it is so devastating. It really is.
Go ahead,
really,
Jen.
Sorry, it's really disorienting.
Yes.
It's really disorienting when you started to describe, Tia, how, like, you were feeling horrible, right? And so you do feel, I just want to echo that feeling of insanity, because your emotions, your head is is wrecked. Nothing about you feels good or normal. You feel so out of whack and so out of control. But this person is love bombing you.
Yes.
They are saying so many nice things, and like my ex-husband was extremely extravagant when we were in the honeymoon cycle. He would just do these really grand gestures, and it's confusing and disorienting, because even though you know you're in this cycle, it's still this feeling of, this shouldn't be happening. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know where to like file this away in my head. Right. This doesn't fit anywhere in our relationship.
Right. Felicia,
and it also makes you question yourself, like your insanity, but also your self-esteem and your self-value. And do you really understand what's going on in that phase? And you'll be like, no, I don't, because I don't know that I meant it until I remove myself or get out of it. And you really don't. I really didn't understand that, but it just kept happening over and over and over. And then for me, my responses, I was off balance with everything. Even though, like you said, Tia, you're able to do everything, but my balance was off. And when my balance is off, I'm saying I may be able to do something, but it's not the best that I wanted to get done correctly. But I want to respond to it to appease the abuser, so that way we think they can't come back with something else, but here they come again and again and again. So I totally understand it. That's what I wanted to mention.
Yeah. I also think it's important. We've all kind of said this already, but I do think it's important to just state plainly. None of us knew that this was happening while we were in it. None of us could articulate any of these things while we were experiencing them. It is only after getting out, getting healing, getting therapy and perspective that we can articulate this. So if you are experiencing this and you're not sure if this is you because you're not able to articulate these things, that doesn't mean anything. Just if this is resonating with you, it's resonating with you for a reason.
Right. So during this stage, the abuser can really give you what you want to believe. It's sincere, but it's really false hope that things will finally change and get better. And in my case, it blew my mind. I never had to defend myself against my ex-husband's words. He never denied being abusive. Once I finally opened up, he admitted it. Whomever I was speaking to, he admitted it. And that like became part of his ploy, his manipulation. You know, he would admit what he was doing, and then he would promise to do better, and he would say how much he was, going to change. It was that false hope, and I really wanted to believe that it was sincere. And for me, it was like, I just couldn't understand how you did these things, and you're admitting these things. You are admitting these things in front of the counselor, in front of the pastors, in front of whomever, but it's not changing. That really threw me. It really did. And also in some cases, abuse is not 24/7. There are some cases where it does not happen every day. It doesn't happen all day. There may be days, weeks, or months. In my case, a couple years at a time where no violence takes place. But that's the honeymoon cycle. But the honeymoon cycle always comes to an end. And in my case, the blow up was always much worse. It was always more severe than the previous time. And during that length of time, like I said, I was walking on eggshells because I knew something was going to happen. I just didn't know what. I didn't know when. And even to have months or a couple years go by, I knew something was coming. I knew the other shoe was going to drop. And it does not feel good to be in that type of atmosphere, in that situation, where at the same time I was wanting, I was hoping, I was believing, this is it. This is going to change. But it was like, I knew. I just knew. I really did. And that was hard to, it was hard to admit to myself, but also I really couldn't put words to it and define it until I stepped outside to get the information and to really understand what was going on. You know, and for me, something else that in any situation, I always find it fascinating. I can look at somebody else. I can look at somebody else's situation, and I can point out A, B, C, and D. This is what's going on. This is what need to be done. You know, this is what should happen. But me, myself, it's like all the answers go out the window. It's like it's not obvious when it's yourself. You know, it's hard looking at yourself, your own situation. And I really do believe, in my case, what made it hard for me, in addition to the fact, you know, I really did want to keep my family together, but the honeymoon cycle made it hard for me because I really wanted to believe what was being said. I really wanted to believe what was being done. You know, and I would say to myself, maybe one day he will actually love me as much as he apparently hates me. I said that to myself, and I really held on to that. You know, I'm like, maybe one day, you know, if he could love me as much as he hates me, I thought it was possible because of those honeymoon cycles, because of those glimpses of moments where, you know, he is capable of giving me nice words and encouragement. You know, he is capable of being thoughtful, but all that capability was manipulation, you know, and it's really hard to come to grips with that. You're only being nice to me because it's manipulation, because you just want to lull me into a false sense of security so you can do whatever you want to do and say whatever you want to say later. It's really hard to, I think it's hard to own up to that truth.
Yeah, I think too, as you pointed out, Felicia, your self-esteem is in the toilet when you're in this situation. And so one of the reasons that you can't figure out why your situation is different, and you could look at somebody else who's going through the exact same thing and say, that is abuse, you need to get out of that situation, is because your self-esteem is non-existent at that point. And they have whittled you down to less than a person at that point. And so you don't believe you deserve any better. You genuinely think that you're getting exactly what you deserve. You know, I mean, at least I did. I don't think I would have articulated it like that, but by the way I was living, I thought so little of myself at that point. He had gotten me to that point that I was okay. Like, this is life. This is what it's going to be like. I just have to keep trying, and hopefully I will do better, and I will be able to do well enough that we'll just stay where things are good. And it never works. It never happens. Because you're not the problem.
They're the problem.
Yeah.
And not only that, they want you to think and put the blame on you. That's the reverse psychology. And they want to tell you things that they think you want to hear to appease you, and like the manipulation, Tia, that you said. But also, then for me, I start making excuses for him, which was funny when I thought about it after I got out. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, well, you know, you use this situation or that situation. No, you cannot make excuses to think in your mind that you want it to make sense or that you want it to work. And there is no right to that at all. There's no just to myself as the first person to no right to it at all. So then I would start making excuses in my head. But like, oh, well, he didn't have this growing up, or this happened. Well, so I didn't either.
Right.
So, you know, but then to make some sense and logic, but there is none. Yes. None whatsoever, no shape, wave, form, or how. There's none. Yeah. There's none at all. It's not right.
I think on some levels, I think you truly do want to understand. Like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you treating me this way? I honestly believe that on some levels we just want to understand. And so along with making excuses, along with having issues of self-esteem, I know in my case personally, I had that I can fix this mentality. And I think just in general, women have that, on their shoulders. And I would dare say, especially black women have it on their shoulders. I can fix this. Whatever problem you put in front of me, I'm going to make it work. If it's financial, mental, emotional, physical, if it's in a home, in school, with my children, my spouse, I am going to fix this. And I really believed that I could help him because I could clearly see, Felicia, like you were saying, he had issues in his childhood. He had issues, being an African-American man, in the United States and, all of that. I could see everything and I had an answer. If you do A, B, and C, then all this will happen. It will fall in line. I really thought it was just something clear to me. I could fix it. And it was just supposed to line up the way that I wanted it to happen. And I have to say, I was confused as to why this wasn't working the way that I planned because it was just so simple. You are a person who is hurting. Go get help. That was just plain as day. It was simple to me, and I just did not understand, why it wasn't working. But again, once I moved outside of my circle, once I started getting the help that I needed for myself and became educated, I realized it wasn't about me at all. It wasn't about what I thought I could do or not do, what I could help or not help. He had issues that he had to take onus of for himself. People decide what they want to do and not do. Like, even excuses I could, make for him. He had a bad day, so that's why he blew up. Okay, if you have a bad day at work, you're not going to go into your manager's office and flip over a desk. A police officer can stop you on the street, call you a nigger, a boy, a spick, or anything else. You're not going to get out your car and go toe-to-toe with a police officer. No, you want to take that ticket and come home. But when you get home to me, you choose to do and say whatever you want to do to me. And I really had to understand it wasn't his childhood. It wasn't, some extreme whatever that happened. It was a choice. Abuse is a choice. Now, hurt people do hurt people, but you have a choice on whether you're going to hurt somebody. You have a choice. Are you going to inflict the same pain on someone else that was inflicted upon you? And it takes a strength to not do that. It takes a strength to get help that you need for yourself. But I really had to be honest with myself and let go of that fix it mentality. I had to realize I can't fix it. I'm not God. I don't have all the answers. And even if something is really clear to me and it doesn't work out the way that I think it should work, then hey, if it's broken and I can't fix it, then that's just what it is. But I have to move on. And so the honeymoon cycle, I just think it was just really interesting when I, began to learn and became educated and the name that was put to it, the honeymoon cycle. Because as you said in the beginning, Felicia, honeymoon cycle, I think, you just get married and, you go on this beautiful trip. Like, well, that's not what honeymoon means to me anymore.
Right.
It's completely different. Just completely different. But it's interesting. Even the words like love bombing, that sounds so sweet until you understand, what it really is. Luv Bay, at this time, we want to welcome you again to Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern, with a replay on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m., and then also on Thursdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Luv Bay family, we are continuing to rise out of the ashes together. We want to share some more resources with you. We have the National Teen Dating Abuse Helpline. Their website is www.loveisrespect.org. Their phone number is 1-866-331-9474. And then we have the Polaris Project National Human Trafficking Hotline. Their number is 888-373-7888. Or you can text the words Be Free, BEFREE, to the number 233-733. And their website is polarisproject.org. And then we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Their website is thehotline.org. And their phone number is 800-799-7233. So I just wanted to say, and then Jen, if you have a question or comment after this, I just wanted to say, just as we did not realize, well, we didn't have a name for what it was that we were experiencing, we still knew that something wasn't right, something was wrong. So I just want to say, pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to what's happening to you and what's happening around you, because, you know, you can call it intuition, a gut feeling, the Spirit of God speaking to you, just your own thoughts. Call it whatever you want. But if something is inside of you and like a little light that's flickering, pay attention to it. Even if you can't name it, pay attention to it, and then go find out. Then go research, then go learn and study, reach out for help, and find out what's going on to make you feel the way that you feel. Never ignore yourself. Don't ignore yourself, because no matter the beautiful words and the gifts and the things that he gave, you know, in those moments, I knew it wasn't true. I knew it wasn't real. I knew it wasn't going to last. So don't lie to yourself. Don't quiet yourself. Jen?
I just want to talk briefly about the fact that relationships require vulnerability, and that sounds like a really obvious fact. The problem with abusive relationships is that it is a one-way street where vulnerability is concerned. Mm-hmm. So you, as the victim, are entering into a relationship being vulnerable and opening yourself up to this other person, because that is what is required for a healthy relationship. And the other person may play like they're being vulnerable, but they are incapable. And so I just want to kind of highlight that, because I think it's extremely important to realize that you're not stupid or you're not stupid for entering into this relationship in good faith.
Yes.
You thought you were getting into one thing, and it has become something totally different. But you have entered into something honestly and openly, and the information that this person now has about you is because you gave it to them willingly, because that's what you thought you were getting in return. And I just think it's really important to acknowledge that it's not your fault that you were vulnerable with them. That's what you did, what you were supposed to do in a relationship. When somebody enters into a relationship and is lying about who they are or lying about what they are capable of, that is on them. It's their responsibility. And yes, we've talked about how hurt people, but I just want to reiterate what's already been said, which is that everybody is responsible for their own health and their own happiness. Yes. So whatever that means, mental, physical, whatever, another person cannot do that for you. It's literally not possible. They will not heal you. You are responsible for your own health. So yeah, I just think it's really important to acknowledge that vulnerability is a really powerful force, and it's important that you don't lose that. And it can feel really jarring to be vulnerable after you've been in a relationship like this. But don't let your abuser take that away from you, because it is extremely important.
Yes.
Very good, Jen. I would also piggyback off of that and say, in the stages of abuse, you may not see it, and like Tia and Jen said, be aware of your feelings, be aware of your emotions. And even though you may be in the crisis, doesn't mean that the crisis totally has to take care over you. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you know that you deserve, and it is required for love for yourself, respect for yourself, to be kind to yourself, trust yourself, trust your feelings that you're feeling and you're experiencing, you're going through, and be kind to yourself, because it starts within yourself, and love yourself, most definitely.
Yes. And I want to point out, in my case in particular, and I believe that this could be generally across the board, and we know the most dangerous time for a victim or survivor is when they're leaving an abusive relationship. I clearly remember specific times just when I made the steps for myself just to enter counseling and to begin to speak out. There were moments when he started being nice, like a honeymoon cycle would start, but it was only to find out information. He was just being nice just long enough to figure out who am I talking to, what am I telling them, what's my plan, what am I going, to do. But once I made the absolute final decision, like my life is going to change, this is different, and moving forward, I could see his pattern just start to return, to come back, until it was just over. I mean, the last meltdown he had was just it. He just never came back, from that. But I could see, by that time I was able to put, a name to what's happening. I could define it. I could speak clearly on it. I had the understanding for myself, but I could really see this act was just because he knows I'm on my way out the door. He knows like this is going to end. He was just trying to put the pieces together. Now, I want to say, Luv Bay, when I actually put my plan together, he did not know that part. I did not share that with him. That you have to keep to yourself.
Yes.
That's on an as needed note. If you need to know, then you will know. But I was very careful about that. But I could see the manipulation because it wasn't caring. It's like now you want to ask me questions, ask me about my day, and, give me little things. And again, just to try to figure out what's happening, what's going on, I guess to satisfy whatever questions he had in his mind. But even with that, it was, I had to recognize, not only recognize what he was doing, I had to, within me, stop allowing the pattern to knock me off balance. I really had to stop believing a lie, as hard as it was. I had to tell myself that is false hope. It's not going to be what I want it to be. It's not going to be what I desire it to be. It should be, but it's not. So I had to stop allowing those honeymoon cycles, however long or short they lasted. I had to stop allowing them to knock me off balance. So you really, really have to dig your heels in for yourself. Do what you need to do for yourself. I don't care how pretty the flowers are. I don't care how the diamonds are shining. Your life is worth more than that. Really is.
Oh yeah.
The sweet, pretty words. Look, write something down and read it to yourself. Okay, go in a jewelry store and right, send yourself flowers. Go in a jewelry store, buy yourself something. If you can't afford what you want, go look at it anyway. Go try it on.
That's it.
Yes.
I want to piggyback off what you said about the danger, because I do think it's another important highlight to this. So yes, when you are getting ready to leave, or when you are getting ready to make any sort of move with your abuser, you will notice that the cycles tend to move faster. They tend to move through the cycles faster, and the behavior starts to escalate. So I just want to reiterate what Tia is saying as far as being safe. It is the deadliest time for victims. It's so unbelievably sad and horrifying that a lot of people lose their lives as they are trying to leave. And it is the act of leaving that is the catalyst for that, unfortunately. So whenever an abuser feels like they're losing control, that is the most you will start to notice the cycles moving faster, as I said, and the behavior escalating. And another thing I want to point out is it's actually in the explosion phase. When Tia was reading the article, she said that the abuse could be of a verbal, physical, or sexual nature. I want to highlight that physical abuse is more than someone putting their hands on you. Mm-hmm. Physical abuse encompasses a lot. It encompasses destruction of property. It encompasses them hurting themselves. It encompasses them, being rough with furniture or inanimate objects. Anything physical in nature, even if it is not hitting you or pushing you, is physical violence. And so please don't feel like, and this is something that I didn't know until I got out of my relationship. Because I was like, well, he hasn't put his hands on me, so that's not physical abuse. No, if he is hitting himself, hitting the wall next to your head, which was one of his favorite things to do with me, if he is throwing your things across the room and destroying them, that is physical abuse. So just be on the lookout for that.
And I've spoken to individuals, and I've counseled individuals who said to me, my relationship isn't good, but it's not, there's no violence in it. I'm not being physically abused. And then they would go on to describe to me things that were happening. One person said to me, he's never hit me. The only thing that he does, he waits for me to go to sleep at night, and when I'm asleep, he dumps cold water on me. So I had to explain that is physical abuse. He did not take his fist and punch you, but that is physical abuse to throw cold water on anyone while you're sleeping. It is physical abuse for you to stand in my face and try to make me afraid of you just by your presence, your stature. You want to tower over me. It's physical abuse if I'm on the other side of the room and you're staring at me with just the nastiest glare you can muster up. That's physical abuse. So I think, again, we have to be educated. We have to learn. It's more than just the broken nose, broken arm, bloody lip. There's more to it than that. And again, and I always go back to the point, how did that make you feel? If this man or this woman is staring daggers at you from across the room, how did that make you feel? If someone has thrown water on you to wake you up out of your sleep, and several times, no less, in the night, how did that make you feel? That's what abuse is. And you have to be mindful and care about yourself. And another thing I wanted to say is that abuse... You want to come out of the position of where you're being reactive. Like he would do something, he would say something, and I would react to it. I had to take my power back. I had to be on the offense. I had to be the one making some decisions and doing what I needed to do for myself. So you don't want to always be in that position where you're walking on eggshells waiting to see what's going to happen, and then you take the next step after that. No, you care about yourself. You prepare yourself, and you put a plan together, and you have a plan. So I want to, you don't want to be, in that situation where you're always reacting. Like, again, we know holidays are coming up. This is going to be a season filled with tension. There are going to be bills that can't be paid. Bills will be late. There will be arguments about what to get the kids for Christmas, what we can't get. Families coming over, and they're coming over unannounced, and we have to buy food for everybody, okay? That's tension already. And then when you have abuse in a house, that's just going to light the fire. It really is. But you don't want to be where you're just constantly reacting. So that's when you make a decision for yourself. And you stand up for yourself. And if the very first thing that you do is call a hotline number, go to a website to get information, that is being on offense. That is taking care of yourself. If you pull someone aside and ask some questions and talk, that's being on offense, taking care of yourself. We don't want to keep waiting until something happens, because that last thing that happens may be that last thing. And you may not have time or the opportunity to react to it. So I really want to encourage, all the listeners, whatever pattern or stage you may find yourself in, break the cycle, break the pattern, because you can. Not only can you do it, but you have the right to do it. You have the right to take care of yourself. You have the right to stand up for yourself. You have the right to say, I don't like the way that this makes me feel. I don't want it to happen anymore. And I'm going to do something to change it. I'm not going to wait for you to change your behavior. We've been down that road before. You've not done what you said you're going to do. So now I'm going to make the changes that I need to make for me. So I just want to say to the listeners, you are empowered to do what you need to do for you. And if you don't hear that from anybody else, I want to say very clearly, you are empowered to do what you need to do for yourself. If words are being spoken that make you feel uncomfortable, that make you feel hurt, that make you feel bad, then you have the power to do something about that. If a situation is happening, you have the power to do something about that. If it's removing yourself from the situation, if it's, saying, very clearly, I don't want this to happen, this needs to change. Or if it's a situation where you just need to start counseling on your own, and you just need to start gathering information to open that door for yourself. Whatever it is, and everybody's situation is different. Everyone's answer or solution will be different. But I just want to say, start working on one. Start somewhere, because you already know it's a problem. If you feel some kind of way, if you feel off, if you feel off balance, if you feel, that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, sometimes you could look at your phone and you just see a phone number and like, oh God, I don't want to talk to this person. That feeling that you get when you're on your way home, that feeling that you get before you get to the house, like you're okay all day long until you get home and you putting your key in the door to walk in. That feeling that you get when you go to a certain place or a certain person is around you. You can do something about that. Somewhere you can do something about that, no matter what it is. And don't let other people judge your situation. Please don't do that. There is enough already that you have to deal with navigating your own situation without feedback, unhelpful feedback from outside individuals. So I know that was a lot, but I just wanted to share that. And I'm looking at the time. We are just under the hour. That went by so quickly. So as we are just under the hour, ladies, I would just like to give you both just time to share your final thoughts on the honeymoon cycle. Jen, I would ask you to share first, and then Felicia, if you would just leave us with the the last words on the night for our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what more needs to be said, but I do just want to reiterate, you are not alone. Even if you don't understand what's happening to you, like Tia said, something is wrong. And don't, pursue an action, be empowered. You can leave, you can start again. There is no barrier that is worth your life. So starting again is absolutely worth it. And there are resources and people that will help you do it. Even if it feels impossible. I would encourage you not to confront your abuser. That can be extremely dangerous. Make a call to a hotline. And if that's too much for you, tell one person what you're going through. Let one person know, because you will not believe how liberating it is to finally put words to everything that you're feeling and everything that you're going through. Yes. And by taking that one step, you will be able to take the next step and the step after that. Look, nobody goes into these relationships wanting them to fail miserably. Nobody goes into them wanting to walk away with bags and bags of trauma. So don't let quote unquote failure be the reason that you don't leave. Because again, nothing is worth your life.
Yes. And Felicia, just before you give us your comments, I really want to say you can start over. Wherever you are, you can start over. I left my ex-husband. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I really have to think to remember the numbers now, and I am glad to be in that position. I am. We had been married for 19 years when I left him. And after I left him, I got everything back that I lost. I got my money back. I bought a house. I bought a car. This summer, I've already shared, I will be getting a Camaro because that's what I want. My dream car is a Camaro. I will be getting my Camaro, and it's not about material things. It's not about financial things. But I just want to say and emphasize, you can start over. You can. Things can be replaced. Your life can't. So I just want to throw that out there. You can start over. Do not let the fear of a new life stop you. Do not let the fear of the unknown keep you in a place that you can get out of. Don't let fear keep you there. So I just wanted to share that. Felicia.
Okay. My thing is just make sure that you keep everything in perspective, but first of all, keep yourself. Be safe. That's the first thing. And love yourself, and don't ever, ever, ever give up. And like Tia and Jen said, you can start over. Believe in yourself. Trust in yourself. And nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. All things are possible, especially with God and the higher powers and the beliefs and the trust and the faith. And no matter what situation or where you are, there is hope, there is love, there is faith. And you want to establish a peaceful exit. You want to be safe. And in that, everything that you gave in, God always gives it back to you. And also, you could do it. Have faith and believe in yourself. You could do it. You will do it. Remember to keep writing yourself and journaling yourself and giving yourself daily acclamations and declarations as well. But best of all, believe in yourself and know no matter what situation, no matter where you are, there is hope, and there is other people like us here to continuously help you throughout the way.
Yes, thank you so much. Luv Bay, when I get my Camaro, I'm going to let y'all know. I'm going with my sister. My sister is going with me. I want it for my birthday. My birthday is May 28th. So, Lil, if you're listening, I'm just reminding you. Luv Bay, if you want to catch up on previous episodes from the program, you can visit our YouTube channel, Suffering in Silence DV. I want to thank you for joining Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Luv Bay, please remember that we are rising out of the ashes together. Good evening.